Have you heard about the new national park fee increases? If so, you might be confused because there's a lot of misinformation out there. So today I want to walk you through exactly what you need to know about these fee increases, who they apply to, and how to navigate this new process. My name is Ash. I'm a former park ranger and the founder of dirtinmyshoes. I also got my first job with the National Park Service as a fee collector in Grand Teton National Park. So you might think I'm a little too excited about fees. That's because I lived in that world for a while. I was the ranger who greeted you as you came into the park and paid your entrance fee at Grand Teton. So I can give you a true ranger's perspective into what is going on here, how it's going to affect you, maybe different things you haven't thought about that may affect one of your upcoming trips to a national park. So let's jump in and talk all about these national park fee increases. What is going on? Let's walk you through it all. First things first, these fee increases started on January 1st, 2026. And so any time after that, this is going to apply to you until they change it again, which they might, but we'll keep you updated. So starting January 1st, 2026, basically what has changed is that there are some national parks that were tagged as more like premium parks, some of the busiest national parks, some of the ones that have those big overcrowding issues. And there is an extra fee tacked on to the entrance fee for those parks for non-US residents. So that's one part of it. The second part of it is that for non-US residents, the annual pass, the one that gets you into all the national parks for a year, it's called the America the Beautiful Pass. That has also gone up in price for people who are not residents of the United States. So this mostly affects people who are non-resident, but if you are a resident of the US and you're still going to a national park, there are things you need to take into consideration with these changes as well. So stick with me and I will walk you through what you need to know. Okay, so I am on the National Park Service website. They have a couple of pages here that I want to show you that will help you navigate this. So I will put all of these links in the video description below. But first of all, this page talks about the changes to the non-resident fees. And so a lot of questions I've been getting, probably the first question I want to address, you can read through all of these, but what happened if I purchase a pass in 2025 and I'm not a resident? Will it still cover me? And yes, they are still honoring those 2025 America the Beautiful passes as they were purchased with the original terms. So you paid $80 for a 2025 pass. You can still get your whole vehicle into the national parks, whether you're a resident or a non-resident. So keep that in mind. If you already have a pass, it will function as it always has. A couple things I want to point out on this page though for you. This is where it lists what national parks are the more premium parks that are going to have the additional fee for non-residents. So you can see that right here. And again, these are really busy national parks. These are ones that stay really crowded. So Acadia, Bryce Canyon, Everglades, Glacier, Grand Canyon, Grand Teton, Rocky Mountains, Sequoia, Kings Canyon, Yellowstone, Yosemite, and Zion. And as someone who has helped people plan trips to these parks for over a decade now on dirtinmyshoes, and I have itineraries for a lot of these parks because they are so busy and hard to navigate. And so it makes sense that they're going to pick these parks as the ones that have additional fees. These are the ones that always struggle with overcrowding. Okay, so that additional fee is for non-US residents. You will pay the standard entrance fee, which is typically around $30 to $35 per vehicle for a week. You will pay that entrance fee, and then you will pay a $100 fee per person who's over 16. Okay, so that's the part of it that actually had a lot of people confused. There was a lot of misinformation out there saying that you had to pay $100 a person in every national park. That's not true. It's for those national parks listed that I just showed you. You pay the standard entrance fee. That's what everybody pays when they go in, plus the additional $100 per person who is over 16. So if you have a family like mine where it's 2 adults, 2 kids, my kids are young, they're under 16, we would not be paying that extra fee for our kids, but we would for the two of us adults. Okay, so then the second part of this is the America the Beautiful annual pass. This pass gets you into all the national parks that charge an entrance fee. This pass traditionally has been $80 for everybody. Starting January 1st, 2026, it is $80 still for residents. It is $250 for non-residents. I will walk you through what it looks like to pay either the per person fee in those premium national parks, or if you should just buy the annual pass as a non-resident. We'll get there. One more part of what changed with these fees is that actually they put the passes to be digital. Traditionally, you would always just have an actual pass that you purchase when you get to the national park or at one of the stores before you go. But now they have it all digital. And so you can actually purchase your pass digitally. You can store it on your phone and show it as you go through the park. The thing that hasn't changed with these passes, whether you're a resident or a non-resident, is that you still need to show photo ID to use the pass. That has not changed. I was a entrance fee ranger at Grand Teton. It's been a while. I now have my own kids that I take on these trips to the national parks. Even all the way back then when I was a ranger, we always asked to see ID with the pass. That's always been a thing. So that will continue and it will just help determine whether you can purchase a non-resident or a resident annual pass at this point. So let me show you where these passes are now digitized. That's on recreation.gov, which is the website that we typically use to make national park reservations. So you can do that here. You can read through this. It will show you the various passes that you can purchase. This one's the resident pass. This one's the non-resident pass. Again, getting you 12 months into all the national parks, Forest Service land, BLM land, all of that charge entrance fees. So you can do that here. And again, it's a digital pass. So it will be sent to you digitally. You won't get an actual card. For me personally, and this is a little insider thing that you just know if you've been a park ranger, is that actually when you purchase a pass at the park, most of that money stays with that park. And so I actually prefer the actual card. I don't want a digital pass, and so I will wait until I get to the park, purchase my annual pass there, and I know that that money is staying mostly with that park. So if that's important to you, that's something to note. The other thing is now they're saying that if you purchase the hard copy pass, like as you go through an entrance station at a park, you can then go online later and register it digitally. So you can kind of have both. That's what I would do, but there are other people on the other side saying, no, like make sure you're buying everything digitally because it will speed up the entrance lines and stuff like that. And that is true too. If you purchase it before you go, it will make for faster entrance lines when you get to the parks. So, but if you're not sure what you want, maybe wait until you get to the park so that you are sure that you bought the correct thing. Okay, so that's the basics of the price increases for the national parks. Now I want to break it up between if you're a resident or a non-resident, what you need to pay attention to. So let's start with residents. If you are a U.S. resident, not much has changed, but there are a few things that you'll want to keep in mind. The first being that you need to be able to prove your residency now when you go into a national park. If you can't prove your residency, then you will be charged the non-resident fees. So that's something to keep in mind. You can bring a passport, you can bring an official state-issued government ID like a driver's license, you can bring a green card. Those will get you into the parks with those resident prices. So if you want to buy an annual pass, if you go to one of those premium parks and you want to get in for the regular resident fee, then you're going to want to be able to prove that for everyone 16 and older in your car. Your America the Beautiful annual pass is still $80 to purchase if you can prove your residency. So that hasn't changed, still $80, an amazing deal. If you go to 3 or more parks a year, then that annual pass makes sense. Or if you want to, maybe you go to a couple parks and then you have some Forest Service land near your house or something that you go to a lot. That's my case. We have a lot of Forest Service land around us. My annual pass also gets me into those parking areas and pays those fees as well. And for every national park you go to, even the premium ones, if you can prove your residency, then you only need to pay the weekly charge if you don't have the annual pass. So I mentioned a lot of these parks are around $30, $35 for your whole car for the week in a lot of these parks. That is the fee that you would pay. Again, you'll just need to be able to prove, though, that you are all U.S. residents in your vehicle, everybody 16 and up. So that's the most important piece. Make sure you have proof that you are residents. The national parks are free sometimes on specific days, and those fee-free days are for U.S. residents only going forward. And so that's not going to affect you as a U.S. resident, but just know that, again, needing to prove your residency, if you don't want to pay for entrance on those days, is going to be required. And the last thing, entrance lines are going to be longer. Unfortunately, that's just going to be a side effect of the rangers needing to check everybody's IDs in the car for everybody who's 16 and up to determine what price they need to pay as they're going into those premium parks. So if you are going to one of the parks that was listed on the website, Acadia, Zion, Yellowstone, all of those, expect longer entrance lines. Now, I mentioned I have itineraries for a lot of those really busy parks. So if you go to dirtinmyshoes.com, click on itineraries, and you'll see that I have fully planned out hour by hour trip plans for, I think, most of the parks. I think maybe only not Everglades and Sequoia at this point, but they're coming. So, but I have itineraries for these parks that you can get, and I will show you how to avoid those crowds. So the thing is, even if entrance lines at Yellowstone are longer than they normally are, that's okay. I will show you how to avoid those entrance lines and how to not get stuck in the crowds in Yellowstone. So if you're worried about that, go pick up one of my itineraries and that just won't matter. I will help you navigate through those crowds. Make sure you get in there before it gets too busy. Okay, if you're not a U.S. resident, listen up. Let me walk you through what you need to know and how to see it on the website and how to determine what is your best option as you're going into the U.S. national parks. Okay, so here on the National Park Service website, they have a page that is entrance fees by park. And so as you're planning out your trip, we can use this page to determine how much it's going to cost, what your best, options are. And I will link this in the video description below. So let's say that you want to go to Yellowstone and Grand Teton. Let's put in Yellowstone, and then I'm going to put in Grand Teton. Okay, a lot of people do those two parks in the same trip. Okay, so we can see that for a private vehicle to go into each park for 7 days is $35, and you will pay that per park. So that's $70 right there that you would pay to get into these two national parks. Now, if you are a non-resident, you can see that it does say that this non-resident fee applies on these parks. And so if you're a family of 4, like ours is, where we have 2 adults and 2 kids under 16, we're going to pay the $100 per adult as a non-resident. So to visit Grand Teton National Park as a non-resident family of 4, it's going to be $200 for the 2 adults that are non-residents plus the private vehicle fee. So $235 for our family of 4 to get into Grand Teton as non-residents. And it is the same for Yellowstone. So $235 for our family of 4 to get into Yellowstone as non-residents. So if you're wanting to go to both parks, you're going to have to add that up. $470 to get into both national parks for your trip. So if that's the case, instead of paying $470 to go to 2 national parks, why not pay $250, get the annual pass, and then you can go to as many of those parks as you want. But Even if you don't go to any more parks, even if you just go to those two, it's still cheaper to get the annual pass. So that's what you're going to want to look at as you're trying to determine which pass to get. You know, if you're just going to one of those premium parks, you're going to get pretty close to the annual pass price anyway. So in most cases, it is going to make the most sense to buy that annual pass. But let's look at another scenario where you're still a non-resident, but maybe you're planning a trip to some parks that do not have that non-resident fee tacked on, that aren't one of those premium parks. Okay, so if that's the case, then let's say you're going to the Pacific Northwest and you want to go to Olympic and Mount Rainier. And what the heck, let's add in North Cascades because it's right there too. Okay, so let's look at these three parks. If this is your trip through the national parks this year. You look over here, you will see that none of these parks are premium parks. None of these charge those non-resident fees. So for a family to get into the national park for a week, you're just going to be paying that private vehicle number. So that $30 will get you into Mount Rainier for 7 days. And there's no non-resident fee on top of that. So to go to Mount Rainier, North Cascades, and Olympic, which North Cascades does not have an entrance fee, then you would only pay $60 for your entire family to get into these parks. So in that case, if those are the only parks you're planning on going to, this is your one trip to America, you don't plan on coming back during the same year, you don't plan on, needing to get into any other national parks for the next 12 months after this, then you would just pay the $60 to go to these three national parks, and you wouldn't need to pay that $250 annual pass fee. There would be no reason to purchase that annual pass if you don't think you'll use it again. And you're not going to one of the premium parks that adds that non-resident fee. Side note, as a national park geek who worked at an entrance station and just is really interested in stuff like that, that entrance fees by park page is really fun to scroll through. I like just looking at it and seeing the different entrance fees that are charged per park. Maybe that's super weird, but you can go through that and you can look and see. And I think, what to take away from this is, yes, there are some premium parks that are much more expensive to visit as a non-resident. And in that case, it is probably going to make the most sense just to buy the annual pass. If not, if you're not going to one of those premium parks, then things will feel pretty much the same. You're not going to be paying more money to get into the parks. You're not going to be paying more than anybody else. And as I mentioned, on that website with all the entrance fees, there are a lot of parks in there that don't charge entrance fees at all, like North Cascades. And there are a lot of smaller sites and things like that that don't charge those entrance fees. And so that's not going to be affected either. As a non-resident and a resident alike, you're just going to want to pay attention to those big premium parks that are charging those non-resident fees. That's where those entrance lines are going to be longer as they, work through that. I have so much compassion for those entrance fee rangers that are working there. What a difficult job to be asking everyone for ID and determining, what everybody needs to pay. So be super patient with them. And just know that if you're visiting one of those premium parks, the lines are going to be longer. You are going to want to have ID as a resident. And if you don't, then you will be charged those non-resident fees. One more thing, again, those fee-free days that we typically have a few of each year do not apply to non-residents. So if you don't prove your U.S. residency as you're going through, then you will still be charged the non-resident rates, even on fee-free days. Okay, hopefully that makes more sense. I know that it's a lot, but it doesn't have to be confusing. I showed you how to determine what's going on and where to find that information if you have additional questions. You can also leave me questions in the comments below, and I will try to get to as many of those as I can, because I don't want you to be confused. I want you to ditch the overwhelm, ditch the stress, and get out in those beautiful national parks. So go get some dirt in your shoes. If you need any help planning your trip to any of these national parks, you will find more videos here on my channel and on the Dirt in My Shoes website. We'll see you out on the trail.